Thank you for having me, Preston.
It's my pleasure. So, I guess first and foremost, for those that are unfamiliar with you and your background, your story, would you be able to maybe share just high level, high summary?
Yeah, totally. I am a engineer by education. I went to the University of Waterloo. After that, I did what many young engineers do, and I went to Microsoft in Seattle, where I worked on the office team as a PM. And then always wanted to start my own company, and I thought I was going to do it then, but got the unbelievable opportunity to work on Uber Pool in early 2015. And that was the opportunity that I couldn't pass up. And honestly, much of how I think about product in the startup world and business comes from my experience basically taking Uber Pool from, a small idea to a huge global multi-billion dollar business unit within Uber. And a few people know this, but many of Uber's innovations came from the Uber Pool team out of necessity. Things like upfront pricing instead of surge, things like walking to a corner so that your car doesn't have to loop around the block. A lot of that happened out of necessity when I was working on Uber Pool. And kind of fast forward after that, I worked a little bit with Travis in LA on his Cloud Kitchens thing for fun while I was setting up this company, and then bringing over my Uber homies that I worked with on Uber Pool to help me start and run this company.
So, from what I'm understanding correctly, your background in engineering, you think, in retrospect, has helped you become a better product manager. Is that right?
Oh, 100%. I think that it's not a necessity that you are a computer scientist or have a CS background or an engineering background to be a great product manager. Do I think it's a superpower for a product manager to know how to talk in a technical language that engineers understand and make technical trade-offs alongside their engineering manager? Yes.
Yeah.
I think there is something beautiful about being able to understand how something is built and then perfecting the skill of not allowing that to cloud your user research and design judgment. And it's a superpower if you can master it, and it becomes a hindrance if you can't, right? So the flip side to that is if you're not able to be objective, you will allow your I know how this is built and it's going to be hard part of your brain to actually not allow you to find the best answer.
Yeah.
So I think it's a leg up for people who can refine that skill. It's also a hindrance for people who allow that part of the brain to kind of take over.
Yeah. I think that's super interesting, Ro, because, product managers today, I think a lot of them have really, really strong kind of index experience in either design, business, engineering. But it seems like, your experience as an engineer, your experience, even going through that internship that even gave you exposure to design, you kind of have almost a holistic overlap on all three, almost a trifecta, if you will. And it's kind of reminds me of the old saying, like, you can't, if you haven't done it yourself, how can you communicate with people, or how can you let alone coach or teach people doing it, right? And so I think by you being an engineer yourself, product managers, obviously in the technology industry, specifically at software companies, work hand in hand every single day very closely with software engineers. I mean, the fact that you were one, I'm sure, like, there's no ramp up time. You're able to hit the ground running very, very quickly. So that's very, very insightful, especially for people who are listening. This thing that you learned at Uber at that time, that was, aside from, like, the fast pace, aside from, like, maybe a little bit more of chaos joining a smaller company or a fast growing one, what was the biggest takeaway from coming out of a company like Microsoft that at that time has been around much longer? They have established systems and processes. What was like, wow, like, this is like really, really cool, that you learned or you were able to kind of really take with you throughout your career at Uber that you didn't get at Microsoft?
Yeah, great question. It was very clear to me as soon as I stepped into that office, where I felt with every fiber of my being, that the world's smartest people were working on these problems and that the problems were extremely hard. And I felt like, and this is a culture thing, I felt like I wasn't just in the major leagues. I was playing shortstop for the Yankees. Like, that's another level of, like, perfection you need. And what I really learned that I value to this day was Uber, and Travis gets a lot of credit for this as he worked with our team and me closely, which is the company didn't put up with any kind of ownership that wasn't total and complete end-to-end ownership. We had this cultural value, which was owner, not a renter. And so I remember, at these big companies, you can often get one small piece of one small pie and then kind of optimize it, and you don't really change the business. With Uber, it was you're going to get a huge chunk of responsibility that's going to meaningfully impact the dollars and cents of this company. And you need to develop the skill set to be so quick at problem solving and be right about it that you need to know everything about this business. Like I remember, and this is a skill that wasn't really something that I see even now, and why I think the Uber Mafia is like so well positioned to be the next generation of like world changing leaders, is at Uber, there were no nonsense. You knew all of your metrics that you needed to know. You knew all of the parts of the company that you needed to in order to get your product and your business to grow. And there were no, it was an environment where vague responses would be met with, wait, you say things are going well, but give me 5 metrics that show me that it's going well, right? There wasn't like, we had a tough week, our numbers were down. It's like, no, pull up the spreadsheet and exactly what metrics went down. What are your ways that you're going to fix this? And what are the ways you're going to monitor it for the next, X number of weeks going forward? And so I think there's a lot of, to summarize like how I felt leaving Microsoft and going to Uber, was at Microsoft, you didn't really have to get so deep into the weeds and explain why things weren't moving in the right one direction or the other direction. There's always some reason to say like, yeah, we tried this, but it didn't work. And there's some excuses here and there. We'll try this again next week. And there was never this fire that was lit under us, right? We would say like the deadlines are not real deadlines. And at Uber, it's not only that their deadlines were real, they were 10x faster than I was used to, right? It would literally be like, okay, cool, let's like do the analysis for how we should change all of the pricing in this city. It could have tens of millions of dollars of impact per day. And it's 4:00 on a Thursday, and let's roll it out by 2:00 on a Friday. All fully tested, all with the math that backs it up. And the engineers have made the change. You got 7 hours, go. And you're like, holy cow, this would take 6 months at another company. And I'm talking hours. And so that's kind of like what I learned, which is my first manager helped me understand like months are weeks. At Uber, it's like months are weeks, weeks are days, days are hours, hours are minutes. And you have to figure out how to operate minutes, like in minutes, and be right about that. So do whatever you got to do as an individual to like learn what you need to learn, ramp up, and be right and be quick with it. And so, that breeds a certain level of like, things didn't fall through the cracks at Uber. And just being so detail oriented with exactly what you need to know and building that muscle literally changed the way I look at business, the way I'm a PM forever. And I look for that in people that I hire as well, right? It truly was a game-changing environment, I will say, for entrepreneurs in those early days.
So how did you decide to leave Uber? Like, or why they just felt like, your growth was limited, it wasn't challenging anymore, or what happened? Can you walk me through how do you go from Uber to now being like, I want to build something of my own from 0 to 1?
Yeah, I know exactly the day I thought this, which is my experience with Uber and any, young company was that I was learning like crazy every day. I didn't care about anything other than truly understanding how to build an awesome company. The day that I decided that this wasn't for me anymore was I had a product spec that I had written the previous year that didn't get built, right? Because there's planning cycles and there's like some stuff gets cut. And I remember copying and pasting the entire thing and only changing the date, like going from like 2021 to 2022. And I remember as I pasted it in, I said, okay, now the world is repeating and I've probably outgrown this business. People don't know this, but we've launched many different products that all died at Uber, like shared rides products. And once I started like rehydrating different documents that didn't make the cut, I knew like, okay, this was a sign that I was starting to fall into a pattern and I wouldn't get as much out of the company as the company would get out of me. And so I was like, it's time for me to bounce. It ended up coinciding with a lot of the restructuring of the executives, but at the company. But I don't tell a lot of people this, but it was literally that moment where I reshared a doc of a feature idea that I had. And I was like, damn, like, like now it's literally just a cut and copy. So I probably just learned what I need to learn. It's time for me to like try and apply these skills in the real world.
First of all, what was the idea and what inspired you to even kind of pursue the idea?
Yeah, what's interesting is like it was all very organic. So we started our company as a completely different company. I went into a phase of I knew I was going to leave Uber and I started ideating. Like I now had, many years of experience being like, let me just analyze an industry and understand market opportunity and is there something here? And that was equally balanced by the just thrill of starting a company as well. And I learned through that process how important it is to pick a product and an idea that you truly love before just jumping into a different market just because you want to start a company. I remember the company started with my friend saying, hey, and again, I don't say this story very often, but it actually started as a fine jewelry marketplace where my friend was in the Uber cafeteria and was like, it's so weird that in, 2018 or something like that you still need to know a guy to like make a custom engagement ring. And I was like, why can't there be like a network of fine jewelry suppliers in the world that you can just tap into and make your custom engagement ring for? And they can all bid in an open marketplace, et cetera, et cetera. And we did our market validation, which is like, I built a small prototype with an iOS app. At the time, it was called Carbon. We got a couple of jewelry suppliers on the platform. We talked to a bunch of customers. We actually did all this while I was working at Uber. And then, I left and I still kind of worked on it, but it was a fun little side project. And then as all, products do, I think it evolved into something a lot bigger, what we see today, well past jewelry into all these different product lines. But we followed the process of, we had an idea, we built out a prototype. I was lucky enough to like be excited by learning Swift and, building that and sending it to the App Store. We probably got 50 to 100 users on there, proved out that like people do want it, and then looked back at ourselves and said, okay, if we want to build this company that's this global marketplace, we're going to need some capital. And so we then engaged our the Uber Mafia, I like to say, and other VCs. Shout out to Andrew Chen for taking a flyer on me. And we basically did the pitch and we said, look, this is what we built. This is the market opportunity. We think we have something here. And then, like I said, Andrew, the man that he is, took a chance on us and put in a seed check. But we didn't skip any steps. And it was a little bit scary to leave Uber without like knowing you're going to get funded. But at the same time, I think what it did was it really forced us to like go through the process and not do this trap that I see a lot of young PMs going into, which is I just need to like stay back and prove it out 100% before I can like take the leap and quit the job. Right? What I say is, and what my experience was, you're never going to be 100% like convinced that this thing is going to work. You're going to get to at best 70%, at best 70%. And then you're going to have to make this call. Do I want to take a leap of faith and try and build this out and see if the last 30% is there, or to which I have to quit and do this properly and make it my full-time gig? Or do I want to sit back and wait till someone else takes that risk off the table and maybe join the company at series B, C, D, E, But this idea of I will find out that this company works before taking on any risk and quitting my job, that's never a thing in my experience.
To this date, what does your company do in the simplest terms?
Great question. There's about 23 of us now at the company. What our company does is we help creators start and scale their own product lines. And what does this mean? That means that if you are someone who has thought about launching your own candle brand, skincare brand, clothing line, we build a platform that allows you to do all of the core parts of your business through one dashboard and still launch a awesome e-commerce business. We give you the tools to find factories to manufacture your custom products, right? Let's say you want to launch your own skincare line. You could find a factory that will ship you samples of a custom formula that you could work with them on. We give you access to a fulfillment network so that when you're done making 500 units of your lipstick, right, with your custom formula, you don't have to worry about finding a fulfillment center and shipping your products around the world. In a few clicks, we will organize with your factory to ship all the products to a fulfillment center that you don't have to worry about. And you'll get a call saying, hey, all your products are on the shelf. You're ready to go. And then the third part of our business is we give people the tools to either create their own socially optimized websites to sell their products or connect their websites that they already have. And so when you put these three things together, product creation, product shipping, e-commerce tools, you basically realize that you have a platform that allows people to build multi-million-dollar businesses without ever having to hire someone or learn how to run a supply chain, how to build an operations team, right? What they can focus on is all the creative fun things. What products do you want to launch? How do you promote your products, right? We And we see these creators all different sizes. A lot of people say, can this only be, for the people who are like the Kim Kardashians of the world? And the answer is no. We see people, and I won't name any names, but we see mega celebrities that are household names right now that have businesses that are running using Pietra, all the way down to the blogger with a very, very small following launching her own candles business in the middle of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And we just give you the tools to make it incredibly easy to launch your own business.
Wow. So it's like an all-in-one platform. Like if you had an idea, instead of having to do all these things manually, you can just do it all in one-stop shop with Pietra. Is that correct?
All in one-stop shop, all in sequence steps that you can follow along. Like first step, find a supplier. Here's all the suppliers. Second step is setting up your business. Here's all the things. Here's a checklist for how you set up your business. And again, the goal for us is to realize that the tools we're building for these creative people are built in such a way where creatives should be doing creative things. Meaning you should be promoting, designing, working with their factories to make a cool new product, right? You want to make a candle line. How about you make a candle that looks like a bowl of cereal or a chicken wing, right? Like that's the cool creativity that we want. You don't need to be worried about like, will this be able to ship to the Bahamas in 3 days or less? It's like, don't worry about it, right? Like we will handle all of that back-end stuff. You work with your suppliers to make the products that you think are super cool. And our goal is eventually to power all of these branded product lines and give creatives ultimately the tools so that they can build and scale and own their businesses more than they have been able to do in the past.
How many different varieties of different types of products can people use Pietra for? Are you limited or can you do most of it? Like, kind of curious.
Great question. I think like the last 10 years has been really, really focused on made to order products. And you can probably make about like 30 great made to order products, right? Where you're kind of stamping a logo on a t-shirt or a mug or a cell phone case or what have you. In some cases, making slides or something like that. Our business is built fundamentally different. You can work with the suppliers in our network and literally talk to them and view their profiles to make just about anything in the world. Like you can work with Kim Kardashian's supplier to make a product that you want to create. And you can make everything from athleisure to streetwear to candy to coffee to sneakers to skateboards to, oh man, beauty products, hair care, skincare, home goods. Our job at Pietra is to find every single factory that makes everything in the world and put it in front of creative people and say, you can now use them in a really, really easy way on like a Saturday morning after you pour a cup of coffee. And so you can literally right now go in and use the same suppliers as Gucci, Revolve, Asics, Nike. And you could chat with them and say, hey, I would like to make this garment, for example. I'm building an athleisure line for new moms or a streetwear brand for kids on the Lower East Side, whatever it is. And you can literally communicate with them and develop samples and have your products made. And that's the power of this platform. It's not, here's 10 things, submit a logo. Well, it's quite literally like, you want to make a candle line? How about we work with you to develop your fragrance? Yeah.
It sounds like a game changer for those that have gone through the whole Alibaba manually reach out to vendors, right? And just going through all that themselves. But if there's anyone who's thinking about starting their own company, if there's anyone that wants a successful career in technology like yourself, is there one advice that you want to share with those that are listening?
Yes, I think don't wait to do it, is what I would say. The biggest regret that I have was not starting 8 months earlier. And I think don't fall into the trap of thinking you need to learn some skill from some other company in order to start your company. Almost guaranteed that you are going to realize that everything you've learned at a company is going to be nothing compared to the onslaught you're going to face from starting your own company. So the best way to do it is to get in the game as quick as possible and get over the hump. Way too many people that I talk to, even now, are like, I got to stay here for 2 years and then I'm going to learn how to start my company. I think like the reality is don't wait. Most likely what you're learning in those 2 years will be very different from what you need. Maybe there'll be 20% overlap, but if you have the idea of starting a company, do it. You'll thank yourself later because things take harder. Things will take longer than you think. And so waiting 8 months is not going to help. You might as well get to that solution and the answer faster. So don't wait is my feedback if I was to make it succinct.
Don't wait and just have action. I love it.
you.